No, I have millions of fans like this all over the world. They're just some of them.
Arnold Schwarzenegger almost died on a horse. Jamie Lee Curtis demanded wire cutters in case she had to cut herself loose from a falling jet. The budget hit $120 million. Then came the striptease scene that wasn't what anyone thought, but the real story broke 24 years later when a young actress finally spoke. What happened in a hotel room, what happened on set the next day, and why a movie about spies and lies became Hollywood's darkest secret. This isn't about a blooper, it's about what they didn't show you. It all started at a family gathering when Arnold Schwarzenegger saw a VHS tape of a French comedy called La Totale. His brother-in-law, Bobby Shriver, brought the tape. Bobby was connected to Hollywood and also part of the Kennedy family, since Arnold was married to Maria Shriver, JFK's niece. The movie was subtitled in English and had played at the American film market in 1991. Arnold watched it and immediately saw its potential. It was about a secret agent living a double life, pretending to be a normal man to his wife. He thought it could be much more than a French farce. Arnold passed the tape to James Cameron and said they should remake it. Bobby later became a producer on the project. That random family night sparked what would become a $378 million Hollywood film. When Cameron saw La Totale, he didn't just see a comedy, he saw something deeper, a story about marriage, secrecy, and identity. And he imagined it with large-scale action. He got obsessed with the idea and bought the remake rights for just $1 symbolic dollar. But he made sure that Claude Zidi, the original filmmaker, would still get a share of future profits. That was typical Cameron. He had already broken records with Terminator 2, and now he was about to do it again. He turned a quiet French comedy into a massive film with Harrier jets, explosions, and effects that pushed boundaries. The budget reached $115 million, the highest ever at the time, but Cameron believed it was all worth it. That symbolic $1 deal turned into a fortune. Claude Zidi ended up earning $15 million from True Lies because of the profit-sharing deal Cameron insisted on. But success led to trouble. In 2000, a screenwriter named Lucien Lambert filed a lawsuit saying La Totale had stolen its story from his 1981 script called Émilie. At first, the court dismissed it because he couldn't prove the timeline. But in 2004, he won the case on appeal. Actress Sylvie Joly testified she had seen his script in 1982. Lambert said he only found out about the theft years later when he saw La Totale on TV. The court forced Zidi to pay him part of that $15 million. Cameron wasn't held responsible because the court believed he had acted in good faith. For the role of Helen Tasker, Cameron wanted someone funny, charming, and confident. Someone who could break away from the typical Hollywood image of a scared woman in danger. He had seen Jamie Lee Curtis in A Fish Called Wanda and remembered her work in Trading Places. Even though she was best known for horror films like Halloween, Cameron saw something else in her. He thought she could carry a major action role. This was a gamble. Curtis had never led a film with a $100 million budget before, but Cameron trusted his gut and moved forward. Arnold wasn't convinced at first. He didn't think Jamie Lee Curtis could match the energy and strength needed for such a big role. Cameron had to personally talk to him and ask him to trust the casting. Arnold eventually agreed, and once filming started, everything changed. He saw Curtis give one of the best performances of her career. Arnold was so impressed that he did something rare in Hollywood. He agreed to share top billing with her in the opening credits and on posters. Curtis later said it was a big deal, calling Arnold's decision generous and respectful, because top-billed actors usually don't share credit like that. Meanwhile, Tom Arnold was in a rough spot. He had just gone through a public divorce with Roseanne Barr, and his reputation had taken a hit. Tabloids mocked him, critics dismissed his acting, and his sitcom had failed. When he heard James Cameron was casting for True Lies, he auditioned mainly just to meet the director and Arnold Schwarzenegger. He didn't think he'd get the role. Studio executives at 20th Century Fox were alarmed. They said casting Tom Arnold was a bad idea, calling him a distraction who was fading fast. But Cameron disagreed. Cameron backed Tom Arnold completely. When Fox pushed back, Cameron made it clear he wasn't going to change his mind. He told them he had written the part with Tom in mind. When they kept arguing, Cameron threatened to move the entire project, all $100 million of it, to Paramount. That settled it. Fox gave in. The risk paid off. Tom Arnold's performance as Gib became one of the most enjoyable parts of the movie. It changed his career and turned him into a well-known character actor. True Lies went on to break records. It became the first film to officially cross the $100 million budget mark. Shooting took 7 months, from August 1993 to March 1994. During the Florida shoot, the crew worked 12 straight days without lunch breaks. Cameron's perfectionism pushed costs even higher. He spent $20,000 per hour to rent a $33 million Harrier jump jet from the military and had a 46-foot replica built for close-ups. He even paid for tiny digital tweaks, like changing a shirt color or moving a close-up from one scene to another. The movie made $378.9 million worldwide. That included $146.3 million in the US and $232.6 million internationally. It opened strong with $25.9 million in its first weekend, beating Forrest Gump at the time. It held records in South Korea and Japan, and it became the highest-grossing Hollywood movie in China back then, with CNY $103 million. Still, the profit margin was thinner than expected because of the huge budget and marketing costs. For every dollar spent, the movie only earned back about $3.7, far less than other hits like The Lion King or Forrest Gump. People questioned the spending. Cameron answered simply, "The money is up there on the screen." He pointed to the explosions, the flying sequences, the practical effects, and the global locations. He said every detail was worth it, and he refused to cut corners. Cameron even added 40 digital shots in post-production. His belief was clear. If a shot was too easy, he'd find a way to make it harder. That's how committed he was. And looking back, the film's practical effects still hold up decades later. The movie also marked a big milestone for Cameron's new company, Digital Domain. He had started it in 1993 with Stan Winston and Scott Ross, because he was tired of waiting on other studios for visual effects. True Lies was their first big project. Their team worked non-stop to meet Cameron's demands, and the company quickly became one of Hollywood's top VFX firms. Their later work included Titanic, Avatar, and over 500 other films. They even created the award-winning software Nuke, which is now industry standard. True Lies still holds the Guinness World Record as the first movie to officially pass a $100 million production budget. At the time, that figure was seen as outrageous. Today, it's standard for any major film. But in 1994, Cameron broke the rules and proved he could do it. Ironically, he kept breaking his own records. Titanic cost $200 million. Avatar went up to $237 million. And Avatar, The Way of Water, may have cost as much as $460 million. Everyone thought Jamie Lee Curtis slipping during the striptease in True Lies was an accident, a clumsy, funny moment that just happened to work. But that wasn't the truth at all. It was a carefully rehearsed idea between Curtis and director James Cameron. They came up with it together before the cameras even started rolling. The lingerie she wore wasn't from a wardrobe trailer, it was hers, brought from home. And the dance? No choreographer, no professional guidance, just Curtis moving on her own. 3 full days of filming, dancing to Alone in the Dark by John Hyatt. Cameron initially wanted it more daring, completely nude, lit only in silhouette, but Curtis pushed back. She said she'd keep the underwear on, do it in full light, and still make it powerful. She even performed the whole thing for Cameron before filming. He laughed afterward, saying it reminded him why he loved his job. The fall wasn't random. It was their secret trick to ease the tension. Audiences bought it. Everyone thought she lost her balance for real, and that's what made it perfect. Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't know. Cameron didn't tell him about the fall, so when Curtis hit the floor, his instinct kicked in. He sat up fast, startled, ready to help before catching himself and sinking back into character. That moment, raw and unfiltered, made it into the movie. So did another slip, literally. Arnold fumbled the tape recorder while watching her, and that too stayed in the final cut. 2 accidents that weren't really accidents. They were real reactions, honest moments that slipped past the camera and made the scene human. But there was a problem. The more Curtis danced, the more Cameron realized something was shifting. The performance was getting too intense, too real. The mood on set shifted, quieter, heavier. The line between acting and reality started to blur. And this was an action comedy. It wasn't supposed to feel like something out of an erotic drama. Curtis said it herself. By the third day, everyone on set was dead silent, watching her like they weren't even working. Cameron saw it happening and knew he needed a release valve before the tone of the whole movie broke. That fall, it became the safety switch. When it came, it didn't just lighten the mood, it saved the entire sequence from going too far. Curtis later said, "That moment got the biggest laugh of her career." At the premiere in Westwood, sitting next to her father, Tony Curtis, she watched the scene unfold. The build-up was thick. Silence filled the theater. And then, the fall. Boom. The entire place exploded with laughter. It was overwhelming. She hadn't known how people would react to something so intimate. But the timing, the shift, the break, it all landed perfectly. Curtis credited Cameron entirely. She said he knew the moment to break the spell, and he nailed it. That scene didn't just land. It stuck in people's minds for years. Actor Kumail Nanjiani once joked that it dragged him through puberty. Cameron later tried to recreate that magic. He did a second take of the fall, but it didn't work. Arnold was ready this time. He knew it was coming, and everything about him looked forced. The tension was gone. The surprise was fake. And Cameron realized something important. You can't fake a real moment. You get one shot. The original footage stayed. And that choice made the scene one of the most iconic in 90s cinema. The movie worked because it kept what was real, and real moments, it turns out, can't be rehearsed. But there was a story most audiences never knew. In 2004, French screenwriter Lucien Lambert won a case in Paris that revealed both La Totale and True Lies were plagiarized from a script he had written back in 1981. His screenplay, Émilie, had the same plot, a man pretending to be a spy to seduce women. Lambert had lost an earlier lawsuit in 2001 because he couldn't prove his script came first. But the appeal changed everything. The court ruled that Lambert's story predated La Totale by 3 years, and that meant Cameron's blockbuster had unknowingly used stolen material. Lambert's win wasn't just symbolic, it shook Hollywood. The key piece of evidence came from actress Sylvie Joly. She testified that she had seen Lambert's Émilie screenplay in 1982, long before La Totale was even in development. Joly had nothing to gain and risked a lot by speaking out, but the court believed her. Lambert's lawyer called the ruling a David over Goliath victory. It wasn't just about money, it was about truth. The court also ruled that James Cameron himself wasn't at fault. He had bought the remake rights to La Totale in good faith in 1991, paying just $1 symbolic dollar plus profit participation. He had no idea it was plagiarized. Still, the court added a twist: moral responsibility. Even if he didn't steal it, he had still benefited. The judge's words were sharp. When you buy something, you have to know where it has come from. That line stuck. Cameron's name stayed clean, but the message was clear. Hollywood couldn't just look the other way. Claude Zidi, the original director of La Totale, was ordered to give Lambert a share of the $15 million he had earned from True Lies. The exact amount stayed confidential, but the ruling meant that every dollar Zidi made from Cameron's version belonged to Lambert. It was one of the largest plagiarism payouts ever made in the entertainment world, but no amount of money could replace what Lambert had lost. His script, his dream, his credit gone. He discovered the theft by accident, watching TV one night. By the time the truth came out, he was 72. The victory was hollow. His work had made millions, but he never got to see his name in lights, and the story got darker. In 2018, Eliza Dushku, who had played the daughter in True Lies, broke her silence. She posted a heartbreaking statement on Facebook, revealing that she had been sexually molested by stunt coordinator Joel Kramer during filming in 1994. She was just 12. Kramer was 36. He was Arnold's personal stunt double. Dushku said she had told people at the time, her parents, a few friends, her brother, but no one acted. The shame, the silence, the confusion, it stayed with her for 24 years. Kramer had spent months grooming her. He earned her parents' trust, promised safety, took her swimming, got her sushi, made her feel like he cared. That trust let him isolate her. He lured her to his hotel room, drew the shades, turned the air conditioning up, put cone heads on the TV, walked out of the bathroom wearing only a towel. She was 12. He placed her on the bed, touched her, whispered things no child should hear. On the way back, he made her sit on his lap in the cab. She remembered every second of it. She told a trusted woman on set who confronted Kramer. That same day, Dushku was injured doing a stunt, broken ribs. She believed it wasn't an accident. She was suspended from a crane 25 stories high. Kramer was the one in charge of her safety. She said he retaliated, hurt her, silenced her. After her post, more women came forward. A stunt woman said Kramer molested her 15-year-old sister and her 16-year-old friend in 1997. Another woman said he assaulted her in the 70s. Kramer admitted to one of the cases, but laws at the time protected him. He continued working for years. Big films, big studios. No one stopped him. Cameron said he didn't know. But Dushku had told people, and Hollywood once again had looked away. It was July 1994 when something went terribly wrong. They were filming a high-stakes action sequence, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was on horseback. The crew had built a narrow ramp, barely 4 feet wide, no railings, right at the edge of a building. The idea was for the horse to stop at the brink for a dramatic shot. While crew members adjusted the camera, someone accidentally dropped a heavy camera arm right onto the horse's nose. The animal snapped. It started spinning and rearing, panicking on the dangerously small platform with a 90-foot drop waiting below. One wrong step, and both Arnold and the horse would be dead. Without wasting a second, he slid off the saddle. A stunt coordinator yanked him back to safety. Later, Arnold admitted that moment genuinely scared him. He said, "That one was really scary. That's why I love stunt people." Then there was the Florida Keys helicopter scene. A limousine was waiting below as the chopper began descending for the dramatic rescue, but something broke. The limo's engine died. Inside, Jamie Lee Curtis and Tia Carrere were strapped in, trapped, with a live helicopter hovering just above. Curtis, always thinking ahead, had demanded a knife be hidden in the upholstery before shooting. She also insisted the seat restraints be made of seatbelt material, something she could cut through in an emergency. For several tense minutes, the helicopter pilot hovered while the crew scrambled to restart the limo. One mistake could have turned the whole scene into a tragedy. Director James Cameron said they had one chance to get it right, and they barely did. Curtis pushed even further in another scene. She chose to hang from a real Harrier jet during flight, not a green screen. No heavy stunt doubles, just her, suspended by cables. She knew the risks. The jet's engines blasted deafening heat and wind, and the ocean below was very real. So she told the crew to bring wire cutters into the chopper, just in case the Harrier had to ditch. She didn't want to go down with it. "I wanted to cut loose and take my chances falling," she said. The filming was fast and real. No slow-motion trickery. She called it one of the most intense things she ever did. Her only requests were the knife in the limo and the wire cutters in the air. Arnold wasn't just dodging death and explosions. He had another challenge: dancing. The tango scene wasn't a stunt, but Cameron wrote a note beside the script. "This is your most dangerous stunt." Arnold believed him. He took it seriously, trained for weeks, and treated the choreography like an action scene. Tia Carrere later joked that she was Arnold's most dangerous partner, but he nailed it. She even praised his perfect posture. The dance became one of the film's most iconic scenes. And it all started with one line in the margins. Behind the camera, things weren't much safer. The film was the first ever to cost over $100 million, closer to $120 million by the end. The size of the production created real danger. Explosions didn't always go to plan. Crew members were injured. Emergency medics were on call constantly. In one case, a stunt coordinator standing near live pyrotechnics turned out to have a criminal past, raising serious concerns. Some days, crew members stood waist-deep in water for 9 hours straight. Cameron's perfectionism meant dangerous scenes were repeated over and over until they were perfect. Practical effects meant real fire, real water, real bruises. The massive budget reflected not just the scale of the action, but the cost of keeping everyone alive through it. That kind of effort doesn't go to waste easily. After the film's massive $378.9 million box office success, Cameron started working on a sequel. In August 1999, He brought in writer Jeff Easton. For the next 18 months, they developed the story. By March 2001, the script was done. All the original cast was on board. The budget would likely exceed the first films, and Cameron had just negotiated a $500 million deal with Fox to produce up to a dozen projects. True Lies 2 was at the front of the line. Filming could have started later that year, but then came September 11th, 2001. Everything changed. Suddenly, the kind of lighthearted take on terrorism that True Lies was built on felt wrong. Cameron pulled the plug. 4 months after the attacks, Schwarzenegger still believed they could tweak the story and shoot it by next year. But Cameron didn't agree. Terrorism is no longer something to take lightly, he said. The script had a major airplane fight scene. Even though it wasn't directly connected to terrorism, it reminded him too much of the real-life horror. That one scene killed the entire movie. Despite that, the cast didn't give up. In 2005, Schwarzenegger, then governor of California, held a meeting with Cameron, Curtis, Paxton, and Dushku to push for the sequel again. He promised they'd film after his term ended, but Curtis had already lost hope. In 2002, she said, "Terrorists aren't funny anymore. They never were, but we could pretend they were. Now we can't." By 2009, Cameron confirmed it. No True Lies 2. And in 2019, Curtis sealed it. I don't think we could ever do another True Lies after 9/11. It wasn't just True Lies. Hollywood began scrapping or delaying almost every terrorism-themed movie. Jackie Chan's Nosebleed, about stopping an attack at the World Trade Center, was canceled entirely. Collateral Damage, starring Schwarzenegger, was delayed by 4 months. Big Trouble was held back 7 months. Forrest Gump 2 was shelved permanently. Columbia killed off Tick-Tock, about a bomber attacking malls. Studios no longer wanted to flirt with terrorism as entertainment. The tone had changed forever. Even so, the idea behind True Lies lingered. In 2021, CBS ordered a pilot for a TV reboot. It starred Steve Howe and Ginger Gonzaga. Cameron returned as executive producer. The series premiered on March 4, 2023. But lightning didn't strike twice. It was CBS's lowest-rated scripted show of the season and got canceled in May, just 10 weeks in. The final episode ended on a cliffhanger. Harry abducted by a Russian agent with no resolution. It proved that the original movie's charm couldn't be recreated without Arnold, Curtis, and Tom Arnold. The legacy belonged to them alone. But legacy has cracks. The movie faced heavy backlash for its portrayal of Arab characters. The Crimson Jihad villains sparked protests in 10 U.S. cities and got the film banned in 54 countries. Critics said Hollywood had swapped Cold War Russians for Muslims as the new villains. Signs outside theaters read, "Hasta la vista fairness," and "Open your eyes and terminate the lies." The Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee called it scapegoating. No explanation was given for the villainy, just stereotypes. One critic pointed out that Hollywood seemed to believe it could offend Arabs and Muslims, but no other group. Another point of fire was how the movie handled relationships. The hotel scene, where Harry tricks Helen into thinking she's on a spy mission while secretly watching her strip, didn't sit well with many. Critics called it abusive. Roger Ebert said it wasn't funny, it was cruel. Feminists said the way Harry manipulates his wife for laughs showed dangerous power dynamics. The interrogation scenes, where Helen is tied to a chair by her own husband pretending to be a terrorist, raised even more concern. The fact that she doesn't leave him afterward, that worried a lot of people. Jamie Lee Curtis's performance in the striptease scene added to the controversy. She filmed it over 3 days, no rehearsals, no choreographer, just her and 100 crew members. She danced to Alone in the Dark, doing the whole thing herself, including a pratfall she added to lighten the mood. She called it empowering. The moment exploded across talk shows. Some saw it as bold and liberating. Others weren't so sure. They said it still played into the male gaze, with 3 cameras capturing it all from Harry's point of view. Critics argued that even though Helen had agency, the scene wasn't about her. It was about him watching her. And behind the scenes, things were unraveling for Tom Arnold. During filming, he was going through a messy divorce from Roseanne Barr. She accused him of physical abuse and storming onto her TV set. He was kicked off the lot, fired along with his assistant Kim Silva, whom he was rumored to be having an affair with. Roseanne even claimed he broke into her house and threatened their kids. Newspapers were full of drama. He tried to laugh it off on The Tonight Show, but the damage was done. NBC aired a TV movie about their explosive relationship later that year. And yes, Tom added a line in True Lies about his wife stealing his ice trays, which was apparently based on something Roseanne actually did.